killed in Vietnam is finally added to the Joplin Memorial Hall's permanent monument.
And don't let the sun fool you. Even though it's shining for us here in Joplin, it is not any warmer. We're going to talk about the cold temps and how long they're going to stick around coming up.
And we take you to a nightclub in Scotland where dancers are working up a sweat and helping to power the club.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
A new name is added to Joplin's Korean and Vietnam Memorial more than half a century after his death. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes this Veterans Day, a former Joplin High School graduate is honored on a permanent memorial. The wall at Joplin's Memorial Hall honors the combat dead of the Korean and Vietnam conflicts. It was dedicated in May of 1973. Recently, the Joplin High School class of 1965 noticed an oversight. Their classmate, Private First Class Lawrence McCrae, was not on the list. McCrae served with the Army in South Vietnam until April 5, 1966. The 20-year-old was killed by fragmenting rock during construction on an airfield. On Wednesday, Quality Memorials of Carthage added McCrae's name. We'll have more from today's dedication tonight on the KOAM News at 5. Well, today is Veterans Day, but a few area groups took the time Thursday to honor the brave men and women who served our country. Galena High School treated local veterans to breakfast and performances from the band and choir. For 26 years, Galena has hosted a veterans celebration where students get to meet a local veteran and put on a performance showcasing patriotic music.
Each year we have a Galena graduate come back and speak to our kids, and just so our kids can see what it could be like for them one day if they join the military and serve our country.
Students also made posters and flyers to show their support for local veterans. Well, the American Legion Post 13 in Joplin planted American flags on the graves of veterans at Peace Church Cemetery yesterday. Caretaker Jim Beeler says they've now marked the sites of 300 Civil War veterans, but says many more are buried at Peace Church.
We should honor our veterans because of the freedoms that they sacrificed. They sacrificed their lives for us. And so it's important that we recognize each person, whether they're living or they're deceased now, and give them thanks for the freedoms that we have today.
Well, this Veterans Day is also bringing colder temperatures, and Chris Warner joins us with a first look at the forecast.
Yeah, it is considerably colder today compared to yesterday, and the cold temperatures are here to stay at least for the foreseeable future. So we should be at 60 for our normal high and 39 for our normal low. Well, our high is what our low should be, if that gives you any clue as to how cold it's going to get tonight. Don't let the sun fool you, because it is not that toasty out there. We got 32 in Yates Center, 37 Chanute, 36 Pittsburgh, 39 in Joplin, 36 Neosho, and 35 in Monette, so not very warm at all. Now, the good news is the drought tracker updated yesterday, and we got this little hole in the exceptional drought here in southeast Kansas. It's still extreme, which is not good, but it's an improvement. And hopefully with the next updates over the next week or so, we'll start to see how the recent rains are helping, which they should be helping at least a little bit to try and curb some of the drought situation we've had to deal with here in the 4 states. We're still looking at a high, maybe about 37 degrees. Some of us might push 40. Because the sun is shining, but that's still not going to be that warm. We're 36 by 2, 33 by 5, and around the freezing mark by 8, with some partly to mostly cloudy skies as the day progresses. And of course, with all the changing weather, if you're ever away from your television, all you have to do is scan that QR code or go to your favorite app store and just search for KOAM Skywatch Weather. That way you've got the KOAM Skywatch Weather app. And so when, again, you're not watching KOAM News, if you're outside, if you're working, or anything else like that, you got the latest forecast, radar information, everything you need to know in the palm of your hand. And this time of year, as things continue to change, it's the perfect time to have that app. And of course, the perfect time, make sure you tuned in to KOAM News throughout the day. We'll have a look at your complete forecast and those cold temperatures and snow chances here in just a couple of minutes.
And another reason you want to have that app in your pocket.
You certainly do. If you're not around your TV and you're outside, you're going to need to know if it's going to snow.
All right, thanks, Chris. Well, in Nation Watch, we're learning much more about the devastating impact of Hurricane Nicole, now a tropical depression over the south. The storm slammed into Florida's Atlantic coast early yesterday, packing 75-mile-an-hour winds. It sent seaside homes crashing into the ocean. The storm is blamed for at least 4 deaths. Elise Preston is at Daytona Beach, where there is major damage.
This is what's left after Hurricane Nicole battered Florida's eastern coast. Powerful storm surge swept the foundations from under beachside homes, triggering widespread collapse and ruin. Communities in Daytona Beach shores and nearby Wilbur by the Sea were among the hardest hit. Residents like property manager Krista Goodrich say living here wasn't always such a risk.
We did not build as if we were going to be overlooking the ocean. This was not an area that has ever even flooded.
But this time, the remnants of some homes were swept out to sea. Floodwaters overtook city streets. Heavy winds downed trees and knocked out power lines. At one point, more than 330,000 people were without electricity statewide.
Our infrastructure took a beating from Hurricane Ian. There was no way that we could have ever recovered from that. And now here comes Nicole.
Mike Chitwood is the Volusia County Sheriff. He called Hurricane Nicole a knockout punch and said more than 600 people had been evacuated from condos that were declared structurally unsafe.
What's going through your mind right now?
It's heartbreaking. Our town's in for some pretty hard times, I think.
Marcy Dutton has lived in Daytona Beach off and on since the 1970s. She used to sell ice cream on the beach.
We are a tourist town. That beach is our life, our lifeline. And when we no longer have that, it's going to affect the economy of this town.
Officials here have called the structural damage unprecedented and fear even more buildings could collapse in the coming days. Elise Preston, CBS News, Daytona Beach, Florida.
All right, well, the Harry M. Cornell Arts and Entertainment Complex opens its doors to the public tomorrow. The Cornell Complex is ready after a year and a half of building. More than 300 donors contributed to the project. Emily Frankowski, the executive director of Connect to Culture, says this complex will attract national artists.
Oftentimes they're going from Kansas City maybe to Tulsa, and we're just right on the route. And so any opportunity for them to add more performances to where they're going just secures more income for them and fuels, their passion of performing.
Complex opens at noon on Saturday, that's tomorrow, with a ballet performance. Ribbon cutting is scheduled for 12:20 p.m. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at Noon, how a Scottish nightclub is taking the heat from the stage and dance floor and turning it into a truly electric performance. And later, Howard shows us how to make the best country store hermit bars in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Well, a nightclub in Scotland is harnessing an unusual kind of natural energy, using body heat from dancers to power the venue. CBS's Tina Kraus brings us the story.
Nightclubs are known for that powerful beat, but at this one in Scotland, it's all about the heat.
That's what's great about body heat, is our audience participates in the system.
Dancers work up a sweat, not just to party, but to help power the club. The faster they move, the more heat they generate.
Where does that heat go? So thankfully we were able to capture it through this system.
The body heat system traps warmth from people packed on the dance floor and pipes it underground, where the energy gets stored in rocks that act like a thermal battery.
Then when we need the heating for something else, at a different time of day or a different part of the venue, we can transfer the heat from the rocks back into the venue.
Owners of the club have now ditched their gas boilers and hope to eventually reduce carbon emissions by up to 70%. And they say the climate-conscious concept is striking a chord with clubgoers.
So just by coming to an event, coming to a gig or a club or anything, you're part of that kind of low-carbon solution for the venue.
Researchers say dancing the night away can generate around 500 watts of energy, about 5 times what you give off sitting on the couch. Meaning getting down to the beat may have the power to help energize not just the body, but the planet too. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Using spectators to generate eco-friendly energy is growing in popularity. Earlier this year, the British band Coldplay rolled out kinetic dance floors and stationary bikes for fans to help power the show. Still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
You know, some of the best recipes are ones that bring back memories. So join me as I take you back to a country store favorite of mine when I was just a kid.
But first, I don't know if you've noticed, but it is quite cold outside. It's going to stay that way for a while. We'll talk about that and snow chances when we come back. Well, it is definitely colder outside. That cold front did exactly what it promised it would do. It made things cold, but it also brought us some much needed rain across the area. The good news is that rain has cleared out of here. We've been left with some pretty decent looking skies outside for Friday night football. Oh boy, if you're going to any of the games tonight, call a personal foul on the weather. We're looking at freezing temperatures for the games, and we're still looking at the possibility of an isolated shower too. Again, most of us are going to be dry for the rest of the evening, but there may be a stray shower. The thing is because of how cold it's going to get, that could be a stray snow shower if we see anything. 39 in Joplin right now. Wind is north of 13, making it feel like 31 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Here we are, 32 Yates Center, 34 Neodesha, 36 Chitopa, 37 Miami, 34 in Lamar, and 35 in Carthage. So pretty cold across the area, and then you factor in that north breeze. Doesn't make it feel any better. 25 in Yates Center, 28 Parsons, feels like 29 in Lamar, feels like 32 in Commerce, and feels like 31 in Carthage. You take into account where we were yesterday to where we are now, and you can see we are upwards of 40 degrees colder now than the same time yesterday. So talk about a temperature drop. We're still looking at a high around 37 degrees. Some of us may even make it up to 40. Say Joplin, for example, now pushing 39. So not very warm, but hey, it beats, the 30s, I guess, for an official high, right? Could see some increasing cloud cover later, and again, maybe a stray shower or two late this evening along and south of I-44. Most of us, though, remaining dry. The clouds will continue to clear out overnight, and we drop back down to 24 degrees for an overnight low, so frigid for sure. However, the weekend looking a little better. 41 on Saturday, 49 on Sunday, partly cloudy skies, so still cold, and our overnight lows on the weekend still going to be in the 20s, but at least we'll get some sunshine and it'll kind of feel warm. So as we go through this evening, we mentioned we may see an isolated shower or two. Now, again, this is its expectation of where precipitation could fall. It is not saying there's going to be a widespread snow event across the region, but it's just indicating that if we do see a stray shower or two, that it could be cold enough, it could be a snow flurry or two. All of this kicks out of here, and then our attention turns to next week. So Monday, we've been looking at the possibility of a wintry mix. Well, as we head into Monday evening, as you can see, again, I want to remind folks at home, this is not a widespread winter storm. This is the computer's interpretation of where precipitation could fall, and if it does, what kind of precipitation could fall. We could see that wintry mix Monday. We're also looking at the possibility of maybe even some snow on the trailing end of that. So as we look at the 7-day forecast, that's where it gets a little dicey. Again, maybe an evening shower tonight. Into the 20s, 31 Sunday night. Wintry mix possible on Monday with a high of 45, but we drop down to 29. Warming up a bit Tuesday and Wednesday, partly cloudy. If you can call that warm, I certainly don't. 42 on Thursday, another shot at a wintry mix by Thursday of next week. And then after this little system here, temperatures Friday and Saturday of next week in the 30s. That's right, in the 30s, which also means, look at next Friday night, 17 degrees. So it's not impossible that we might set a record or two over the next several days for record lows because, as I mentioned, these 40-degree temperatures, some of these are a bit above, but they're close to what our nighttime lows should be right now. And they're going to be our daytime highs. So it's going to be absolutely frigid the next several days with a couple of rounds of wintry mix possibility, maybe even a little bit of snow. We're not looking at a major snowstorm anytime soon, but we may see some snowflakes here in the next few days across the area.
I like how you tried to make us feel a little bit better on Sunday just by writing chilly instead of cool. I don't know which is supposed to be closer. You have all three of them here, and I'm not really sure cool, which is supposed chilly, to be cold. Yeah, the cold. What's cooler than Friday cool? And like when you got cold, the rest of them, they should all be cold except for make those frigid.
I don't have a frigid icon, unfortunately. It just
too
goes
long.
Cold, chilly, and cool, and I'm not sure which is supposed to be slightly warmer.
Yeah.
Is chilly warmer than cool?
Chilly's like 50s, 60s for me, but that's just me.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
We get cold easily in here.
Yes, we do.
All right. Thanks, Chris. We take this time to honor today's fourth state hero, Yeoman 3rd Class Victor Swaim in the U.S. Navy. The Commerce, Oklahoma native served in World War II from December of 1945 to May of 1946. To Victor Swaim, we thank you, our 4-state hero. Well, today we're making a delicious dessert that will bring back your childhood memories, just like Mom and Pop used to make. Howard shows us how to make country store hermit bars in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
When I was a kid, I remember my dad taking us to this little country store. If we were good, he'd let us pick out 25 cents worth of penny candy. And when I say penny candy, I actually mean that every piece of candy was 1 penny. After filling up our bags, we headed over to the cash register. Next to it was a tray of homemade hermit bars, and he'd always buy me one so I could eat it on my way home. So here's my take on it. We start by creaming together some butter and brown sugar. Once it's light and fluffy, we add in some eggs. Now we lower the speed and add in water, baking soda, and a few spices. Then we gradually add in some flour and mix it well. And what makes a hermit bar are all the raisins, dried cranberries, and chocolate chips that it's studded with. After it bakes and cools for a bit, we'll cut it into bars. These are perfect for fall since the cinnamon and nutmeg give them such a cozy taste. Plus, they're very moist, just like I remember. To get the recipe for our country store hermit bars, all you have to do is visit our website. Just one bite, and you'll know why I love them so much. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a memorable way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
I've made these. They are delicious. And you can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
It's going to be chilly for the next several days, maybe even a wintry mix on Monday, but a pleasant weekend before that. Afternoon highs do not get out of the 40s, overnight lows in the mid to upper 20s, and even some lower 30s out there, so cold to say the least.
I guess so.
All right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5 this Veterans Day, we look into the concern over the surge in lung disease from frontline exposures. In Health Watch, we look at one veteran's struggles and the new laws aimed to help our nation's heroes. Plus, the sights and sounds from today's Veterans Parade in Parsons, Kansas, and Joplin Elementary students honor local veterans with a traditional Veterans Day assembly. Hope you join us for those stories. A lot more, of course, on this Veterans Day coming up on KOAM News at 5.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.